It's time for friends, it's time for laughs, it's time for the Chatter Podcast. Hello everyone and welcome back to episode 4 of the Chatter Podcast. It's been a few months.
It's been a year.
That's a few months. So I'm back. It's just me and Gumi today. No special guest. Hopefully we'll be looking to get this thing back on its feet and depending on viewer reaction, some more special guests in the future. But yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it? A lot has changed.
A lot has changed in the past few months. By that I mean like 16 months, I think is actually how long it's been.
One of the first things that's changed is the channel transformations. Both me and Steven have stopped uploading Pokemon, and that's going to be touched on more during our topic du jour. But for those unfamiliar with the Chatter Podcast here, we have 3 main sections. We've got the news and notes to start off, a topic du jour in the middle, and some question and answer at the end. So to start off the news and notes, something that has changed is both of our channels have undergone changes from Pokemon to, well, Wii U titles specifically, and the note specifically mentions that my road to 10,000 has come and gone completely in the time that the Chatter Podcast has been gone. It was quite a journey. Steven, do you have anything you'd like to add?
So, a couple months ago, like not what he said at the beginning, Richard is like, guys, I'm gonna make this video series and blah blah blah. And see, in my mind, I didn't think it was possible because I'm the kind of person that starts a series and then ends it after like 2 episodes.
Oh, I know. I'm well aware.
So, I didn't have faith, but he did it. And
quite a lot of people didn't have faith. There were, like, specifically, I had a bet with Joseph that I wouldn't be able to make it 30 days, and I made it almost 65 in a row without missing an episode.
And then I think you missed one because T-Swift.
No, I missed one because shitty internet, but T-Swift had something to do with it, yeah.
Yeah.
But, no, it was quite cool.
Yeah, so it was... I think what I liked about the series was that it was very, what's the word I'm looking for?
I'm not
like,
sure.
It was pretty, I think genuine might be the right word, because it was just Richard playing game. Yeah, no, I didn't want to, like, have a script or anything for any episode. It just kind of, I don't know, it was fun for me too, specifically just because it got me back into the whole daily upload swing of things, and it's obviously something I'd been having trouble on so far during the year of 2015. I'd only uploaded like 20 times or so. So it kind of refocused me and got me back into the whole YouTube thing, which is the main reason you're hearing this right now. On your channel, you've been uploading a lot of Splatoon. Care to fill in thoughts on that? Yeah. So Splatoon actually got an update this week on the 20th. And I think that the update significantly improved the game.
Oh, absolutely.
The game was really good to begin with, but there were a couple issues just in terms of, like,
weapon balance.
Yeah, like weapon balance, and it was mostly mechanics based, like, more than anything. And Nintendo, I swear, Nintendo, like, freaking creeps on the Splatoon Reddit. Because pretty much all of the changes that they made were things that people were having issues with, and that people were having issues with in basically the top tier, obviously significantly better than other things in competitive play, because there have been several money tournaments for Splatoon, and Nintendo kind of came and balanced all this stuff, which is nice.
I assume the money tournaments were hosted in Japan, not North America.
Well, they're actually, some of them were global.
Oh wow, that's impressive, because normally, like, when cool things like that come out by Nintendo, it's almost always Japan.
The money tournaments were hosted by third party people.
Oh, I gotcha.
But there are actually going to be, like, official Nintendo tournaments. I think there's one in Japan where, like, the top prize is like $500,000
Jesus.
I don't know. It's something ridiculous. I don't know. But all in all, the game is fun, and I have a series on my channel where I'm it's similar to Richard's Road to 10K thing, where I'm trying to climb the ladder of Splatoon. And speaking of climbing the ladder, the Canadian federal election is over.
That was so bad. You're making fun of me for bad transition. So speaking of big changes, the Canadian federal election has recently come and gone, and this is just like a very minor topic, but it's pretty big for anyone living underneath the Hitlerism that was Stephen Harper. Canadians basically, first past the post, if you are unfamiliar with it, is possibly the worst political system to count votes and have people elected with. If you're unsure of what it is, I guess I could leave a link to it down below. It'll be one of the many links in the Google Doc. But good lord, like that is one thing the American system has over every other political main country system, is that first past the post in a voting thing is awful. And one of the Liberals' main platforms, the Liberals were who actually ended up getting elected, was political reform, which is getting rid of it, which is hopefully they follow through, because seriously, they got like 40% of the votes and they ended up with a majority government of like 59% or something. It's just awful. And yeah, so just a good day for Canada and therefore the world. Speaking of a good day for Canada, the Blue Jays over to sports.
And now over to Richard with sports.
The actual news and note is that the Blue Jays suck more than the Barbs, but as Steven is a massive Barbs fan because he's from Atlanta, they didn't do too well.
Atlanta, but it was the closest geographical place.
How did they do this year, the Atlanta Braves?
Well, they were better than the Phillies.
Did you get a 100-loss season or what?
To be honest, I stopped watching like the last month because it was kind of painful, because we traded Kelly Johnson and Juan Uribe, who are like the only two bright spots on the team.
Okay, I just want to point out, when Kelly Johnson is one of your best bright spots on your team, you have a really shitty team.
Hey, they're on the Mets now, so they're in the World Series. They've moved on. They went from the basement to the top.
Considering Kelly Johnson was one of like the Blue Jays bench players 3 years ago when the Blue Jays were terrible.
But I actually did get to go to 2 Braves games this year at Turner Field, and I still love going to Major League games. There's not really much like walking out into the stadium and seeing the field and all that, because it just kind of brings back the childhood memories.
The thing about the Sky Dome, specifically in Toronto, not so much when they have the dome open. If they have the dome open, it's a beautiful ballpark, and it's literally no different than any other ballpark. It's a fucking ballpark. But when they have the dome closed, you just get this sense of, holy shit, this place is massive. Like, it's like an aircraft carrier, or aircraft, what are those things called? Like the storage units for aircrafts?
Hangar.
Yeah, aircraft hangars, like on steroids. It's so unbelievably big, and you're just kind of, you walk out onto the field, and it's just the lights and the grass and everything hits you. It's just wow.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Jays, as of recording this, are 2 wins away from making it onto the World Series. So no matter what happens, honestly, they had one hell of a season. Considering in spring training, their ace pitcher twisted his ACL on a sprinkler. Kevin Pillar, who's like an all-star center fielder, tore his back when he sneezed. Like, in spring training, it didn't look good for us. And now we're 2 wins away from the World Series, which is pretty cool. And then,
according to ESPN, the future looks bright for the Braves. And what's funny is that on ESPN, you can choose like your favorite teams, and it'll show you the news for that. And of all of the bad things that they could have picked for the Braves, it's literally been like, Kirkshin says that the Braves will be good eventually, and that has been the article for like the past 4 months. Like,
they'll be good eventually. The last news and note, which is actually a rather big topic, is YouTube.
But not the topic du jour.
Is YouTube Red has recently been announced, and it's just really, really. At the moment, it's really confusing, and I hope they reveal more information on it. But it seems like at the moment, it's kind of like the rich get richer. It's kind of based off the American economy perspective model. Because, like, the top 1% of YouTubers right now will just continue to get more and more money. But if you're not in the 1% of content creators, you're basically shit out of luck. The way I understand it is it's a $10 subscription to YouTube per month.
Per month.
and it allows you to get any content created and uploaded by video makers that are also YouTube Red subscribers. So it's kind of like two different cliques of YouTube. There's people who've subscribed to YouTube Red who can watch and share each other's videos, and then there's the people who haven't, and you can't cross over. So if you subscribe, you can't watch non-subscribers' videos, and if you haven't subscribed to YouTube Red, you can't watch people who have their videos. So it's just kind of like...
So what this is going to do is just increase circle jerking in the YouTube community.
It just kind of alienates people, and I don't know. It's a very weird system, and on top of that, according to at least 3 people that I saw on Twitter, so very confirmed news, there's a free 1 month trial to start it off, which means during that first 1 month, absolutely no one on YouTube will be making money. So the people who actually, upload to stay alive and pay rent and such, they're kind of shit out of luck when YouTube Red comes out for a month, because they'll be getting no revenue from their videos, as everyone can watch with no ads for free for a month. And it just hasn't been thought well through, and I really hope that either some changes are made or more information comes out. I'll definitely leave the link to the article down below on YouTube Red, but it sounds like completely bad news as of right now. And
speaking of that, please click the ad on this video.
Are you kidding me? Moving on from terrible news of the of YouTube Red, let's move on to the topic du jour today, which is actually going to be the thoughts on Smogon, competitive Pokemon in general, and just kind of a look back on the time that we have spent on Smogon. I don't know if like regrets or fun times or whatever. I'll let Steven start it off, but I don't know. It's an interesting topic.
So, as I'm sure most of you know, I decided to leave NU and Smogon in general. I'll tell Richard I'm telling him now, to link my post that I made in the, in the NU community thread, because it really summarizes my thoughts on what I feel the problem with Smogon in general is. And I think the main problem, at least looking back on it in retrospect, is that you're giving people on the internet authority that doesn't really mean anything. So it's like there really aren't any true real-life negative consequences if you abuse your power or anything like that, because it's on the internet.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the whole thing is just a circle jerk of power abuse and friendships.
Yeah, so particularly in NU, if you didn't have the approval of 1 or 2 users, you really couldn't go anywhere in NU. Just regardless of how good of a user you are.
Yeah. It was referred to as the clique.
Yeah. So like you couldn't go anywhere regardless of the general population's opinion. I think a good example of this would be like Sir K. Like, I would not personally like be his friend, but he was always a really good user in the NU room. But because certain people didn't like him, he never really got recognition for the effort that he put into the room. And as a person that has always like worked really hard my entire life and things like that, I didn't really feel that I wanted to be a part of something where it just depended on, if people liked you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that. And then the other thing was that because of that attitude and in general, people who believed that they were better than other people as human beings, they also believe that they were better at Mons than anyone.
And
so
if I can jump
in, yeah,
I feel like that's one of the main problems with Smogon, is the superiority complex that pretty much everyone on that website has the moment they get, I don't know, accepted into the community. Obviously, your first few weeks on the website, you're not really posting much. This goes more towards the forums than on Showdown, but I mean, it could apply to both. You really just kind of feel out the environment, make 1 or 2 friends, pipe in when you can. But once you kind of get accepted into the chat and you can make more posts more generally, and you know what I mean, you just kind of feel out the environment. You get the superiority complex just builds over earlier users, and the jerk of people just like rubbing off on each other and this badge that, and then power going to people's heads is just so monstrous. It is just a Pokemon playing website, and there's absolutely no reason that it should come down to like a government kind of, like I said, superiority kind of thing. Like, really, everyone on that website should just be able to treat each other with respect. You all share one common hobby. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it really shouldn't come down to, obviously it's a competitive game, but keep the competition on the field or in the battle, I suppose. Like, you don't see in any other major sport, I suppose you could compare it to, where like people on the same team or opposite teams are complete douches to each other off the field. They're all just regular people. They share a common hobby, and they can talk and express and enjoy it together. When it's on the field, then yes, obviously it's competition time, but I've never seen a community as bad as Smogon, and I'm not quite sure what it is about it that makes it worse than, I don't know, Mario Kart, Splatoon, even Smash. And Smash is known to have a pretty fucking poor community, and it's hands down better than Smogon's. It's a very interesting thing. Looking back, I absolutely enjoyed my time there, but I don't know.
Well, like, what I was going to say is that I think, going along with people who, like, believe that they're better, and what that did is it very clearly separated the people who were quote-unquote accepted versus the people that weren't, because if you were in the accepted group, and, like, say, for example, someone in the accepted group is like, I think, Mon should be banned because it's too good. For some reason, the way it works is that if you don't share that same opinion, you get, basically shit on and
shunned until you do. Yeah.
Yeah, like you obviously don't understand this game. You're not, you're just not as good as I am. Blah blah blah. How can you not, have the same opinion as me?
Yeah, and then obviously the insults like, oh, blah blah blah, and stupid this, autism that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then the other thing is that in general, in the hierarchy, there doesn't really seem to be a lot of accountability, because there's so many people on the same level and not many people above that it's kind of impossible to manage that many people.
Yeah.
And so that also creates an issue, because there are really never any consequences, because once you've reached that point, you're almost untouchable.
Yeah, pretty much. You can do whatever you want, and whatever you say goes, because if someone tries to, like, speak up, like I said, it literally is almost like an autocracy on the website. It just, it's not a good place to be. It's the kind of thing that people tried to escape in the 1800s. And,
and the main thing to me is just, like, the separation in that, I enjoyed playing the game, and I enjoyed being a part of that community. And I feel like the way that the community was being handled and run was not really conducive to giving people the same experience that I had when I chose to start playing the game.
Yeah, because, your first few weeks there are really important, obviously, because you can either get turned off the website completely if you're feeling like, if you're getting treated like crap, which most of the time, if you're not, like I said, if you're not accepted into that clique, you're just not going to have that good of a time.
Yeah, and I also think, again, reflecting of reasons that I left, another one is that I was seeing in my real everyday life characteristics of things that would happen on Smogon seep into my real life, and I would, get very frustrated quickly, or I would, not necessarily treat people fairly and stuff like that. And it was, once I realized that, I don't want the person I am on the internet to be anything but a reflection of who I am in real life, and vice versa.
Yeah. Looking back, Did you enjoy your time, and would you have do it again?
For the most part, I mean, until like the last, I really enjoyed it. One of the things that really killed it for me was SPL. I think I was on possibly the most dysfunctional team in SPL history. We had enough people quit. We didn't have enough players to field an entire roster by the end of the year. And one of the players who stayed was Laurel, who, like, I don't dislike Laurel, but when that's one of the people who's sticking around, like, you know the team is pretty dysfunctional. So that was kind of the beginning of the end for me, because being in the quote-unquote tournament community just kind of showed me, just how cliquey it is, and even, like, playing games, and it's like, oh, well, I built my team with blah, blah, blah from the other team, to try to help counter team you. I've never really understood that, because if you're part of a competition where you're all on separate teams, why would you ever, like, I don't know. It was just kind of weird to me.
I mean, looking back, I feel the turning point for me was somewhere around the end of XYNU and the beginning of ORAS. I don't know whether it was just a change and shift in the overall community, or whether it was just a change in the meta, which made it less fun, which then kind of, I don't know, led to more aggravated people in the community. Like, almost subconsciously, they were just more upset with how the game was going and took it out on other users, or what.
Mega Steelix meta.
It's just, the game was getting less fun for me personally, and the community, which I normally relied on when the game was less fun, was becoming almost toxic. And at that point, I believe I tried switching to OU, but I realized very quickly that it wasn't much fun either, with Greninja still roaming around at the time.
Yeah. Well, and, about your point of, the game not being as fun, that kind of happened to me as well, in addition to, the community and all of that. One of the reasons I really liked SPL was that you're playing one game a week, so you kind of have the opportunity to think about what you want to use, and, use things that aren't necessarily as common, because it only has to work once, right?
Yeah.
Whereas most of the other time, you're going to be playing on ladder, and my theory about why ladder is so frustrating is that, there are 700 some Pokemon, so it's challenging to build a team that's, that's good against all play styles.
And all Pokemon.
Yeah, against all playstyles and all Pokemon, just because of the variety that there is now. And also, I feel like in ORAS, just based on the things that got good, because of the meta that shaped around them, the game became more luck-based, even with just things like Tornadus Therian is really good now, and that's a huge luck factor, because it can be the best Mon in OU when it hits all of its hurricanes.
Yep.
But
I've heard that many times before, that Tornadus Therian is the best Pokemon in the game when it hits hurricanes. Otherwise, it's pretty fucking useless, obviously.
Yeah, and then, and just other factors like, particularly people beginning to abuse Thunderwave on Mons like Clefable. It's like, oh, I can't beat these Mons, but the only things that are immune to Thunderwave get beat by Clefable anyway. And it's just things like that have made the meta more luck-based in general.
The whole Thunderwave mantra recently has just kind of, I don't know, it almost makes a mockery of Pokemon to me at a base level. It's just like, when in doubt, if you throw T-Wave on a random Pokemon, it's never a bad option, just because Thunderwave and Paralysis in general is such an overpowered status condition. Not only does it quarter their speed, which is one of the most important stats in the game, if not the most important, but it also gives them a 50% chance every turn to just not be able to attack. Which,
25.
Oh, is it 25?
Yeah.
Okay. But I mean, still,
yeah,
it's just absolutely ludicrous that such a powerful condition can exist, and it has like 4 variations which nothing can be immune to. Like grass types are immune to stun spore. Electric types are electric types immune to para or just electric?
They're immune completely.
Okay. But I don't know, man. It still is just it's just
and like
yeah. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying.
To put it into perspective, the fact that I was able to make a team in NU that was literally based around spamming Thunderwave, and it was viable, and I got up to like top 5 on the ladder with it, is just disgusting, and it's something that's used in OU as well. I faced a couple of weeks ago, and I was just messing around on ladder. I faced like an 1800 player who was using Thunderwave Hydreigon to catch Clefables so that their own Clefable could win Calm Mind Wars against it.
Yeah. It's just, I've never seen Thunderwave suddenly take off. In Generation 5, Thunderwave was almost like ridiculed, you know what I mean? As kind of like oh, you have Thunderwave Starmie? Wow, you're a fucking idiot. Starmie has so much better options. But this generation, Thunderwave Starmie, I've seen it on multiple occasions on really good teams just because, why not? It's just another Mon that can throw
You can just catch the Lotties or
yeah,
catch whatever wants to come in. The other thing that makes Mons really frustrating to me is...
Team preview, team matchup, rather.
Well,
although that could be filed under
team
luck-based.
matchup. Yeah. In NU, the thing that's frustrating to me is knockoff. I think it's ridiculous that the move hasn't been banned in the tier because things should be removed from the game that have no drawback to them. In an NU, there really isn't a drawback to clicking knockoff because there's only one Pokemon in the tier that's immune to it outright, which is Mega Audino.
In OU, there's very little drawback to clicking it, let alone in NU.
And then the only other thing in NU that can hang on to it is like Sticky Hold Swalot, which just takes extra damage from knockoff because it's hanging on to its item. So it's not very useful. And then in OU, it's almost impossible to play because Goth Sab Stall is just so good that if your team isn't prepared for it, you'll easily get swept by it. But it's hard on ladder to make a team that can beat Goth Stall and
just
Fat Balance
and just
and
normal
offense.
teams, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one of the main problems right now in OU as well, is that Gothitelle is just ravaging the ladder. Well, specifically Gothitelle Stall. Yeah.
Because you just get to pick them on that you want to cripple or kill.
Yeah.
And then
basically you have a 5 Pokemon Stall team, and you look at their team from Team Preview and say, that is the thing that will beat me. Let's trap, get rid of it, and then just win. It'll take a while, but I believe there was a I guess mantra that was listed on the thing that team's less about winning, and OU right now is less about winning and more about not losing.
Yeah.
And it really is disgusting that that's basically the best way to play right now, is just to not lose and force your opponent to either forfeit or 400 turns later end up losing. So
yeah, well, and it's and then another thing that I think a lot of people talk about is also Scald. I think that before I didn't have this opinion, but after playing the tier and seeing an RMT that got up to number 2 on the ladder, that was 4 water types that had Scald. It was Scald, Spam, Stall.
Yeah.
There's so many... Water is such a good typing that you get a lot of opportunities to freely click Scald with really no negative repercussions because the only things that want to switch in don't want to get burned.
Most of the time, yeah. And because that's the main problem. Lava Plume wasn't broken because its main switch-ins were fire types, which are immune. Discharge wasn't broken because its main switch-ins are electric or ground types, which are immune. But Scald, the things that switch into water are not immune to burn. And the fact that it has such a high chance to just cripple anything that switches into it, and the fact that it has such a wide distribution, high PP, high power, it just... Shoutouts to the people in
almost...
Gen 5 who wanted it banned early, because I couldn't imagine going back and playing Gen 5 now with rain boosted. Because it just make it even more disgusting.
Yeah, OU is just weird because it's so predicated on trapping. Most teams are either a pursuit trapper plus thing that abuses things that you want to pursuit trap being gone, or Magnezone plus fairy,
or flying,
or Gothitelle Skull.
Yeah.
So the tier is so predicated on trapping, and it just makes team building almost impossible, because regardless of, I have a check to Zard Y. I have one of the best checks to Zard Y in the game. I have a Latias.
But you can't switch it in, because if they double the T-tar...
You can never switch it in.
Exactly.
And there's really no opportunity cost to using trapping moves and trapping abilities.
Exactly.
To the point where even Assault Vest Metagross with Pursuit is very common now, just because it can come in and trap and kill things like Tornadus or Veladis, or even Gengar to an extent. It can live a hit and pursuit it.
It's funny that you mentioned
Alakazam,
because I recently built a team with that exact set. Just because I needed the Lotties removed. It's actually interesting that you bring up trapping abilities and trapping moves at a core level, because I know it was a long-ass time ago, but I believe in the Topic de Jour of episode 3 of the Chatter podcast, we touched on trapping abilities and are they uncompetitive at their core. I don't remember what we said there, but it's funny that the meta has shifted so much that back then, no matter what we said, you couldn't have envisioned what has become. Just unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, there are just so many mons that benefit from certain checks being gone, and there's so many threats in the meta that you have to use a blanket check like the Lotties, because you have to fit a bunch of roles into one mon.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, I made a team that was actually really successful. I got up to like 1750 really quickly, and it was legitimately Tailglow, Manaphy, Zard Y, Keldeo, and then AV Pursuit Trap Metagross, and like Bulky Chomp and something else. So it just was ridiculous, because in 95% of games, Metagross can come in and kill Lottie, and that gets rid of hazard control as well as your check to very common mons, and
such as really Charwai and Keldeo.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just really challenging to build, and I think it's just because there are too many things, and you're just forced to run the blanket checks, and then it's really easy to abuse them because
absolutely
they all get trapped. I mean, even Clefable as a blanket check to physical attackers isn't incredibly viable, because it can be trapped by Gothitelle, which I've seen on offense and balance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just I don't want to say the entire game is in shambles, but I'm interested to see what Pokemon Z brings out and if it's going to help at all, just because right now I don't think there is a single playable tier other than maybe like RU, because I know Ubers is still a shit show, OU is a complete shit show, NU is a joke, and UU is nothing but fat bulky waters spamming Skull and knockoff. So
yeah,
games last 200 turns and are decided from team preview.
Yeah, so it's just you also have written on here, will you have a comeback tour? In all honesty, probably not. Like, I still enjoy certain aspects of the game. I enjoy team building, just because I think that it goes along with things that I like to do in terms of like math and statistics, and I agree. I like to go through data on usage data and try to find things that work. A good example of that is my Larvesta team that I made, because I saw that at the time, Mega Metagross was the most popular Mega, and there were Bisharp was incredibly common because Mega Metagross was common. And I was like, oh, let me try Larvesta, and that team actually ended up getting up to number 11 on the ladder. So being able to do things like that is pretty interesting. And then the other thing that I enjoy about the game is actually the VGC aspect of it. I don't like playing VGC because I think that there's a lot of luck involved, but I enjoy watching it because the people that are truly good at it are actually, in general, on YouTube, whereas in Smogon format, that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah.
So it's a lot harder to find
and
variety.
Good content.
Yeah. Yeah, it's harder to find variety in singles. I mean, I know that there are top players on YouTube from Smogon, but it's harder to find most of those people, again, going back to the way Smogon is, lumped together and kind of form their own group.
They share ideologies with each other. If one person doesn't like YouTube, none of them do, etc.
Yeah.
In terms for me, I'm kind of with Steven. I still enjoy team building, maybe not as much as he does, but just building successful teams is really, really satisfying, and watching your team do well, it's really fun. Playing the game is enjoyable. It's just I am kind of, I guess, burned out is really the only way to describe it. Breaks can only happen for so long. Like, it's a fun game at its core, but I definitely cannot play it daily like I used to, and still get the full enjoyment out of it. So lives are still a potential, and I do have a lot of them saved up right now. It's just a matter of actually finding time and being in the right mindset and mood to play the game, because forcing yourself to play just isn't fun in any way, shape, or form. I'm sure you know what I mean there.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, especially when it's times like this where there are no tournaments going on either, so your only option really is ladder.
Yeah. And
in order to get good games, you have to put a lot of time in.
That's probably the worst part for me, is that if you play like crap on the high ladder, you'll get shit on. If you just upload low ladder, you'll get shit on. If you don't ladder up, if you do ladder up, it's just extra time that you're not even recording and you're just playing. I don't know. It's a very slippery slope, and it just takes a lot of enjoyment out of it. Anyway, I believe it's time to finish off the topic du jour and move on to the question and answer period. It's going to be kind of interesting because we have a couple questions here that were submitted 5 minutes ago on Twitter. And we also have some questions from episode 3 of the Chatter podcast, which are from 14 or 15 months ago. And looking back at some of them, it's actually really funny to see literally comments asked over a year ago that we're just getting to answer now. But I suppose Steven can ask.
We always come through.
Yeah.
We always come through.
We didn't forget.
All right, so D007ization a year ago asked, what do you think about my patented physically defensive Rocky Helmet Garchomp? So this guy's basically Jesus.
Yeah, 1 year ago, it was, I would want to say, an unheard of set, but it certainly wasn't one of the top 5 Pokemon in the game.
The only time it was common before that was when Mega Kangaskhan was allowed.
Yeah, and people ran it as oh man, what do we do about this Mega Kanga? I know, take the Pokemon with rough skin, give it a Rocky Helmet, and people just kind of laughed at it because, oh man, you're forcing me to run Garchomp with max HP, max defense. This Pokemon's so broken. And then everyone just kind of forgot about it. And now it just, like you alluded to earlier, it's just such a good blanket check to pretty much any physical attacker. Its moveset is really customizable. If you have trouble with Ferrothorn, you can throw Fire Blast on there. If you need more insurance against Mega Lopunny, Endure works really well. It'll take 60% when you're low. just on recoil alone. It checks Bisharp, it checks a lot of things. It's honestly one of the most reliable things. And not only that, but it sets up Stealth Rock as well. So, like, it's probably one of the best Pokemon. Yeah, it's probably one of the better Pokemon in the game right now. And the fact that the comment on our video 1 year ago was like, what do you think of my patented set? Is pretty interesting looking back.
Everyone at Smogon, this guy, he did it first, apparently.
Mm-hmm. And then he continues on saying, secondly, do you agree that defensive Mega Scizor is a god right now? 1 year ago? I don't remember, to be completely honest. It probably was really good.
I don't think Deancey existed then.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's good now.
I know it's really good now. So... Although offensive Mega Scizor took a... It's funny because back then, if it was really good, and then it swung like 7 or 8 months ago to offensive Mega Scizor with enough speed to outspeed Heatran. With superpower. And now it's back to defensive, special defensive. It's interesting how the meta just swings back and forth.
Offensive, but only on hyper offense that wants to get rid of like Rotom.
Utterback asks a question 1 year ago. What is the most fun best set for any Pokemon you have made/used?
I'll let you go first on this one.
Okay. I guess for most fun, I really can't say anything other than Sub-Bulk Up Braviary. Because back in Gen 5, I kind of like concocted it myself when I was using... Oh shit, Braviary gets Bulk Up now. Let's run 2-attack Roost. Oh man, I wish I could set up on walls and not get Toxic all the time. What move don't I need? Well, Return seems pretty useless. Let's keep Brave Bird because it has no immunities. Next thing you know, special defensive so it can set up on a Lomomola. And the rest is kind of history. I wasn't the first one to use it, but I did kind of concoct it without any outside help. So I guess that would be the most fun and probably the best set I've ever made just with my own brain. Other than that, physically defensive Tailglow Rest Manaphy is actually really fun, but I don't think it's any better than Calm Mind. I just prefer it just because on offense it can set up a lot quicker. So it can still be a tool against offense, but it also beat Stall just because of Rest Hydration. I don't know. You have better answers for this anyway, so you should go.
Alright, so for most fun... I'll probably start with Larvesta. Just in general, like I said earlier, it fit a really specific niche that was missing from a lot of teams at the time. And I think in Gen 6, hazard control is just significantly easier than it ever has been. And ironically, the core I built around was Espeon plus Larvesta. And I had no way to remove hazards other than Magic Bounce on the team. So I think I'll count that core as a fun set because I just like doing things that are unique like that. Another couple fun ones. Psycho Cut Bisharp. On one of the first really like competitive teams I made in XY where I was climbing to the top of the ladder back when people actually played ladder, was Psycho Cut Bisharp because it actually beat Keldeo on switch-in if you predicted, because you could kill it with Psycho Cut plus Sucker Punch, which was really fun at the time because Pursuit wasn't really necessary, and
Keldeo is one of the best Pokemon in the game.
And Keldeo was on every team at that time. And then another fun set is a team I made with Richard with Natural Gift Cherry Berry Gyarados.
Oh god.
The theory behind it was it's Natural Gift Fire, and we had Belly Drum and Zoomer on the team, so you could bait in Ferrothorn and kill it. And since it was Cherry Berry, another mon that was really common at the time was Thundurus. So if they then tried to paralyze you, you would be cured with Cherry Berry because that's what that berry does.
The Cherry Berry is the para berry, yeah.
So you could beat the check, which was pretty cool. Best set ever used? I would say in general, Calm Mind Barrier Masharna is one of the Pokemon that I was known best for. because I used it on every team. Uh, I think even though it can't touch dark types, which are incredibly common in NU at the time, it could still win you games. So I think that kind of quantifies as best because it could beat teams that were built to beat it. It was just so reliable at winning late game. You couldn't really give it a single turn or you lost.
Yeah,
basically.
pretty much. All right, you should ask the next one.
Alright, so Richard asks, what are the chances of starting up Don't Starve again? And what are the chances of starting up a series together again? I guess fairly likely. It mostly comes down to my real life schedule, which is honestly not very conducive to YouTube, which is why my upload schedule has been pretty shitty. For example, yesterday I woke up at like 4 a.m. and then I did homework until class, and then I went to class, and then I went to a meeting, and I did homework until 1 a.m. And that's just that's just kind of how life is when you're trying to get 2 engineering degrees.
Yeah, so for those who are patiently waiting on Don't Starve, it will likely happen, but Steven is more busy than you can imagine one person being busy. So it's harder than you'd think to get recording done.
Yeah.
Jask of all trades 1 year ago asks, since you want things to talk about, each of you should share your top 5 favorite pokes in the next podcast. You can go first.
Alright. I guess I'll start with 5th favorite and count down. Is that how that works?
Yeah, probably.
My 5th favorite is Breloom. I really like the design. I think Nintendo did a really good job of making a Pokemon that didn't necessarily have the best base stat total or anything. They just gave it all the right stats in the right places, gave it a good move pool, and made a really cool balanced mon that can work in pretty much any meta. And it's red when it's shiny, which is kind of cool. 4th is oh gosh, what is the name of that mon? You can obviously tell how much I like it. 4th is Sneasel. Again, it brings back childhood memories of when I started trying to take Pokemon more seriously. I decided to do a solo run of Pokemon Crystal.
Jeez.
And at the time, I didn't know that solo runs were pretty easy because you just beat everything with one mon.
Yeah.
But I bred a Sneasel on one of my other cartridges and made that my level 5 starter in my solo run. Because I just really like the design, and I think they kind of ruined it by giving it an evolution. Because I feel like just certain mons just don't deserve one.
Yeah, I feel you.
So that was that. 3rd favorite is actually Gumi. When I saw the original leaks for XY, I was eating it up. I know that Richard took the approach of not seeing any of the leaks and just
I tried to play through the game blind as much as possible, and I did a really good job because X and Y pretty much blew me away as I was playing through it. As a Pokemon guy who picked it up, and my first game was Fire Red on the release date, so I don't know, I started a little bit later than most people, but as big as a Pokemon fan as you can get at the time, X and Y completely blew my mind just because I tried to avoid spoilers at all costs. And if you guys, I highly recommend doing it in Generation 7 if you haven't ever tried it before.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways I really like the spoilers because it gave me things to anticipate.
Yeah, it builds hype.
But, and Gumi was one of those things because I just thought it looked really stupid. And I thought it almost represented my personality, just the way it looks. So that's why I made my channel the Gumi. I just liked it. 2nd favorite is, this is probably going to be pretty contentious, but it's actually Flabebe. I really like the different colors and the idea of the Mon. It's like
Yeah, that's cool.
one of those Mons that's dependent on something that isn't like alive. You know, kind of like what is a Farfetch'd without its stick? What is a Flabébé without its flower? I thought that's kind of cool. And my favorite is Shinx. I just like the way it looks.
To be fair, Shinx was like everyone's favorite Pokemon as they started Pokemon Platinum. It was like, you're telling me the coolest electric dog, like lion thing, is on the first route?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it had Intimidate, even though it was like really cute.
Yeah.
And it has a really cool shiny.
For me, I guess my fifth favorite would probably have to be Sylveon, just because it was one of the only things I saw prior to X and Y coming out. And just the hype around what type it was going to be, nobody really knew Fairy type was actually a thing. And I remember when Fairy type was announced in the E3, or not E3, was it a Pokemon Direct?
I think it was a Pokemon Direct, yeah.
When Fairy type was announced, I got so many text messages from my friends in the middle of a biology class that I actually ended up just leaving the class and going to like talk with them for 10 minutes about it. I was so hyped about it. So Sylveon in general, I also think it's just like fucking adorable. The spec set is awesome. The amount of power it has behind it's like everything Special Mega Altaria wants to be is basically Sylveon. Sylveon's just incredibly powerful. And I don't know, it's probably my favorite evolution if it wasn't for my fourth favorite, which is Glaceon. Partly because of its cry, partly because of I just really, really have fond memories of Pokemon Platinum. When I was a kid, I played Pokemon like every summer. Like Pokemon was huge in my school in like grade 5. Then we all stopped playing it, and like the summer of grade 7 and grade 8, I played it again, but didn't tell anyone because I just kind of like it was like a summer thing to do for me. Is just pick up Fire Red and play it again. It wasn't until between grade 9 and grade 10 that I decided to actually get back into the game. I went out and bought myself a DS and Pokemon Platinum. So Pokemon Platinum was like kind of like the coming out party for me again, for Pokemon. And I don't know, just the game was super fun. The route that you evolve Glaceon or Eevee into Glaceon on has like awesome music. I like the skiers, just everything about
Icy
them on.
Rock.
Yeah. And just I remember using it a lot in Gen 5 NU alongside Jinx, just because it's ice.
Nothing resisted ice.
Basically, yeah. And if you and it was bulky as hell. Glaceon, if you go max HP, it can live a Primeape's close combat from full. It just choose the hit. So
and you can make it a part of dank BP chains.
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, Glaceon has always had a soft spot in my heart. Number 3 is probably going to be Braviary, just because of the fond memories I have of it on Showdown. It's basically the reason why I even have viewers on this channel at all. Because back when I had like 50 subscribers, I just started going nuts with the Braviary videos, and I don't know, people like, I know Leo, one of the first videos where he gave me a shout out in, it was because of Braviary. And I don't know, I just really enjoy using the damn thing. It sets up on so much crap, and I don't know, like the last few games I've played through, you know how you always have a fly slave? I've always just got a Rufflet off the GTS early on and just ended up with a Braviary level 100 to fly me around. Number 2 is probably going to be Keldeo. When it first came out, I was like not too fond of it, just because of how damn broken it was, arguably, in Gen 5 Black White 2. But when I realized how fun it is to use, and specifically how fun Expert Belt HP Bug was, to just literally shit on
the manly set.
Oh my goodness. It just, so quickly, every single one of my teams in Gen 5 OU quickly became Politoed E-Belt Keldeo. Like, just like as the base to start all of my teams. On top of that, it's adorable. It's a fucking pony. It is powerful as shit, and it hasn't gotten any worse. I mean, it has an awesome, unique defensive typing too. Water fighting is one of the better defensive typings you can get.
It's shared by Poliwrath.
Yeah, except Poliwrath is terrible.
Yeah.
And then number 1 is probably going to be Mega Absol. Just it's grown on me so much in the last like half year, but it just is majestic as shit. If it was Dark Fairy, it wouldn't even be close. It's kind of close with Keldeo, but it's just super powerful, super majestic, it's fast. I just wish it was more viable in OU, and to be completely honest, if it was Dark Fairy, it would be so fucking good in OU, because it could come in on the laddies and pursuit trap them 100% of the time.
Yeah, I tried running Will-O-Wisp Hex Mega Absol on OU. It was so bad. It did like 30% to Clefable when they were burned.
Well, that's because it's an unstab fucking special move. But it has a cool move pool too. It has like Wish, Dark Pulse, Taunt, Calm Mind, Debond.
Pretty much every special attack you could want.
Yeah, it's a very interesting Pokemon, and I like the fact that it's never gotten a direct evolution, just a Mega Evolution, because I feel like it would kind of ruin the design.
Because some mons just don't deserve an evolution.
Alright, we should move on. It's been a lot. Second to last question here, we have Chum Chow. Do you think OU is more or less boring / fun without Greninja? And I added to this question through an Aegislash mention as well, because Greninja, I guess I'll go first. Greninja, I feel it's better without Greninja, just because of how centralizing and stupid Greninja was. You pretty much had to either carry something faster. I feel like with Mega Lopunny it might be a little bit better, or Mega Lopunny was out with it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it just, I don't know. It was just too centralizing because nothing could actually switch into it. It just had too much coverage, it was too fast, and it hit too damn hard. And I assume that you'll probably agree with me on that.
Yeah, I mean, it was nice having a mon in the tier that beat basically everything and Clefable.
Yeah. In terms of Aegislash, though, because I feel like it's a bit more of an interesting discussion, I feel like OU would be more fun with Aegislash, just because, like you mentioned earlier, the blanket check thing, it would just take so much pressure off of team building, because it can do so many things and check so many Pokemon really reliably. It's obviously difficult to switch into, and it forces a lot of quote-unquote 50-50s, which is why it was banned in the first place, but...
and then retested and still banned.
I mean, I feel like the retest, it was more broken the second time because it got fucking Magnet Rise.
I mean, it was, I think that, personally, I agree with you. Greninja, it was just really good. The reason that people didn't think it was broken at the very beginning of ORAS is because we had things like Mega Salamence in the tier, which were obviously more important to get rid of.
Yeah.
And in general, I really like any Aegislash meta. The last time I really played Mons was during the Aegislash, like the last time I played it extensively was during the Aegislash Resuspect test, and someone passed me a team with Aegislash, and I went like 42-2 or something like that. I really
Wow.
like it. I really like Aegislash meta because, like you said, with blanket checks, it can help alleviate team building to the point where, although it's centralizing in that Aegislash will end up on most every team, I think it actually allows more variety in the tier.
You cold over there? You keep warming your hands together.
I know. I'm sorry. I have like 3 fans on.
Yeah, before the record, I shut my window and turned off my fan so that it wouldn't get picked up on the mic, but it's like piping hot in here. That's the problem with recording. Like, every time you want to record, you make yourself really uncomfortable. And the last question here today, as we're just about to cross over the 1 hour mark, is Smogon Razori, thoughts on Rocky Helmet Ferroseed? And this is an NU question, so I have absolutely no comment on it.
I don't really play NU, but I imagine it's okay. Like, it depends on what the team needs. Like, do you need chip damage on things like Kanga? But
I think the real question is, why aren't you running Rocky Helmet Gabite with Stealth Rock
Detail.
Earthquake, and Endure.
Does it get detail?
I know it doesn't get it gets something dumb, like it either doesn't get Dragon Tail, doesn't get Swords Dance. It would be so fucking good with SD. It would be SD Earthquake Dragon Claw sub. Like it would literally just be mini Garchomp, and it would be very fun and viable in NU. But of course, Nintendo's like, nah, it doesn't need SD.
It doesn't know how to dance.
No. I mean, it gets Hone Claws, so you can run Dragon Rush, but I don't know, not good.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so I think that's it.
Yeah.
I'll let Richard close, but I do just want to say thank you for having me on the channel. It's good to talk about stupid things that have no bearing on real life.
Mm-hmm.
And also ask questions for a potential next podcast.
I'd hope we'd have an episode 5 within the month, perhaps. We'll see how it goes. Within a month, not the month.
Yeah.
The month is cut. It's like October 23rd.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Definitely leave some questions down below. As you can tell from these questions, they don't have to be about much. It just has to be something you'd be interested in hearing us give opinions on, and it take up some time. But yeah, this podcast is not dead. We are back, and I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you see you next time. Bye. Oh, download link will be down below. I probably should have mentioned that before the episode started. But I always
just edit that in.
I always convert this to MP3 and leave a MediaFire download in the description. So if you just wanted to download this and put it on your phone and listen to it on the bus or at work or whatever, feel free to do that. Anyway, bye.